Hey, it's ynathemoodreader, and today we're going to talk about this book they're marketing as the new Twilight, and that's Crave by Tracy Wolff. So I know I haven't been uploading much videos as I used to. It has been a very busy month for me, and I haven't been reading as much as I would have liked. Don't really have time to film and edit videos. It's hard being an adult, especially when you have like shelves of books calling your name. But yeah, let's not like dwell on that. I'm very happy right now that I'm able to talk to a camera, and this video is going to be very raw. I'll just be talking to you guys about one of these books I've recently read, just so like I can get my thoughts out to the world, because this book, though it's not my favorite and though it's not like a 5-star read for me, gave me like a fun adventure, and it was very nostalgic, and it just reminded me of being like a teenager again. This book is Crave. The title is Crave by author Tracy Wolff, and it's a paranormal romance. If you just look at this cover, you probably can guess what this book is about. And yes, we're talking about teenage vampires. A teenager and a vampire in 2020. Well, in 2021, while I read this, but this was published in 2020. And you know what? I wasn't really expecting for like a publisher to pick up a book like this, which is very reminiscent of Twilight in the way that it was marketed, in the way that it was blurbed. But yeah, I was randomly scrolling through Script one day looking for an audiobook to read, something that would be a long one that I wouldn't be like comfortable reading physically. And this book is 592 pages long. That's a very long book, considering that I usually go for like the 300-page mark. So I decided to pick it up. I was really curious how it would like compare to how much I enjoyed Twilight. I was a really die-hard Twihard during those years. I remember I was in high school, everybody was reading it. Like there were many Twilight copies getting confiscated in our school. People loved the movies. I know it's cheesy to look back on it now, but it was a precious teenage moment for me. And I remember how precious it was for to get those Twilight books as gifts year after year, because we couldn't afford. Like, books were a luxury. Books were like a privilege that I couldn't afford as a student. And yeah, it's really sweet to look back on it. And Twilight Saga will always be like a very special series to me. It introduced me to a whole lot of books. Yeah, until now, I still love it, no matter like how people hate on it, especially with like how cheesy it was. But yeah, anyway, let's go to our star today, and that's Crave. So I don't know if they were just like lazy with the cover, but yeah, this is basically just a Twilight ripoff, that cover. But let's forgive them for that, and let's look at what's inside. So Crave is a book about this teenage girl named Grace. Grace's parents passed away, so she has to move to Alaska because she would be under the care of her uncle. She would be rooming with her cousin, and her uncle is a principal at this boarding school. So this boarding school is a little unique. She experiences this like weirdness, of course, of being the new girl, but there's also something different about the people there. And basically, I was talking about it already, so I don't think it will be spoilery, but yeah. In Katmere Academy, all of the students are supernaturals. So we're not limited here to Twilight and to Twilight to vampires in Twilight. So in Katmere, we are like thrown into a world of supernaturals. We have vampires, we have wolves, werewolves, we have dragons and witches, and it's open, so everybody knows everybody's powers. Like the curriculum is related to each of their strengths and powers, and they just live in like harmony within the community, except for, okay, we have a human girl suddenly there. And so really, if you look into it, it's not really a replica of Twilight. It's like it maybe, I guess, took some inspiration from the book, but it's a different paranormal supernatural story. Maybe what we can compare to it is that there is this vampire guy who is attracted to this human girl, the new girl in school. So, well, if I think about the things that spoke to me, or like I remember vividly from the book that I actually kind of enjoyed, is that first, it has this little cute chapter names. And like with the cute chapter names, you have this little glimpse on what the chapter would be about, and at the same time, it just gives you this smile all throughout. But I have to admit that this book is very, very long. I think if I read this physically, I would have been bored already and DNF'd it. But since I was listening to it, it was like listening to a podcast or a friend that's telling their story. This, by the way, is first person in point of view. So if you don't like people reading something with I pronouns, I think it would be better to listen to it, because it's like there's this friend telling you their story. And I guess we have this sassy protagonist. If you like felt Bella was very passive and quiet, we have this very talkative protagonist here in the person of Grace. She is very curious. She tells what's on her mind. And also, because it's in first person, you'll be stuck in her head most of the time. And she can be quite annoying at times. But I don't know. I still like enjoyed, even though even though like being in Grace's mind can be like exhausting and annoying. We have, of course, your angsty male character in the name of Jackson. He's our Edward Cullen here. And the funny thing about this actually is this book references Twilight most of the time. And when and like Twilight is actually gifted to our lead character in the story by the vampire to give her like a clue on who he really is. So the book is self-aware that there will be like comparisons between their stories, and that's a little cute thing there. It's actually very insta-lovey on like one part, I guess, but the book has this, it takes time to build up the plot. I actually don't know how really the author planned on it, because it's really, really long. And you would think that what we'd get here is just a romance, but there's also a lot of subplots discussing like the hierarchy of the different supernaturals, their like own little government, empires, kingdoms, and all of that. And how that relates to our characters is that our vampire here is the prince of like the kingdom, so he's going to lead it someday, and having like a human partner would be weird for them. So yeah, basically um the book has so basically the book is your typical young adult romance, but because it is fantasy in a way that we have supernatural characters here and paranormal characters, of course there is little world building there. I have to admit that the story takes too long to progress, but I guess it's world building somehow so that we can be very familiar. There are lots of characters as this is a school, and there are, you know, petty things related to the story. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but if I were to define the book, I guess it's Twilight-ish, but it's not as PG as Twilight. There is a lot of making out scenes in the book. There's even erotic-ish blood sucking. Like, they enjoy, both of them enjoy the feeling of one drinking from the other. And this book also talks about the concept of mates, like soulmates with mating bonds and all of that. And when the action picks up, it never ends. So at the latter part of the book, so many things will be happening. You have to like enjoy the crazy ride, because it goes plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. Will be introduced to a different character, one who's been referenced all throughout the book. So apparently our male character, like our male lead, Jackson, has a twin, Hudson, and I think he died because he wanted to kill other supernaturals. So the people hate him anyway, but one of Jackson's friends, Leah, is like Hudson's ex-girlfriend, and she was dealing with his death, and Jackson, in a way, though he is not close with his brother, is also processing that grief and the fact that the death of his brother pushed him to be the one to become the prince of the kingdom. So aside from the romance part, you would be dealing with, of course, grief. Grace's grief for losing her parents, Jackson's grief for losing his brother, Leah's grief for losing her boyfriend, and we also would we'll get the dynamics of family, friendship, and a whole lot of magic. All in all, I did like the book. I gave it 3 stars. I guess for some people, basing on the Goodreads reviews I have seen, many people liked it, many people didn't. And my advice is just, if you want to pick this book up, don't take it too seriously. If you're used to reading like adult fantasy books with like specific intricate world building and lots of action, lots of plot, don't expect to get that from this book, especially since it is targeted to younger audiences, and is pegged as a romance. So it would revolve more on the romance compared to the action. And another thing before I end this video is that this book ends on a cliffhanger, and if that is a problem for you, then oops. But the good news is that the second book is readily available right now, as well as the third book. So just pick it just pick the second book up if you get like this ultimate cliffhanger at the end. All in all, I did enjoy Crave, but I liked Crush more, and that's the second book, which I will be talking about in a different video. For now, that's it about Crave. Is it the new Twilight? I don't know, but I think nothing would ever beat Twilight, but it's actually a good vampire story or a paranormal story if you miss reading about, you know, the fallen angels and the werewolves and the vampires of like decades ago. It's a nice way to look back on it and also enjoy something new, because whoa, actually, by the way, this book has amazing feminist themes. And I actually read a good review that said that this Crave is like a feminist Twilight, and I guess I have to agree. Yeah. So I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. It's not a favorite, but I did enjoy the journey, and I hope somebody else would pick it up so we can talk about this book. If you have read this one, or if you're planning to, please leave a comment below and let's talk about the book. So I'll see you on my next video. Thank you for watching this one. And this has been a Crave book talk, book review. I don't know. If you want to talk about some spoilers, just hit me up. Again, thank you, and see you on the next one. Bye!